This video shall talk about the issues people with inattentive ADHD have. Issues when it comes to being in school, issues when it comes to living life as an adult, as a kid, as a teenager, and what comes with having this condition. Number one, constantly daydreaming and not paying attention. Trouble learning how to tie shoes. What does that mean? I recall being in class many times and not being able to keep grasp of what the hell anyone's talking about. A teacher could be saying a joke, talking about something. Did it catch my attention? For the most part, no. I remember sitting in class bored out of my mind when in 4th grade I had an instructor reading us Harry Potter. Now, whether it was any good or not to me when I was that age, I don't know, because as soon as the teacher would start reading to us, I would just zone out. So I almost never paid attention because I couldn't follow for more than probably 10 or 15 minutes to what was going on. And not just during reading time, but during an assignment or whatever it was. I just wouldn't understand the directions well enough. And I wouldn't be able to focus that well on exams because I would have to keep thinking to myself, what do they mean by this question? What does the instructor want me to do exactly? And then sometimes, granted, when I would go up to the instructor and ask him or her, what is it exactly that you want me to do? They would give me this frustrated face and would basically tell me, you should know what to do. If you had been paying attention during the instructions or, during the homework assignment or some crap like that, which really upset me because I was really trying and really wanted to do good. So that was part of the frustration. The tying shoes part, well, it takes a lot of short-term memory to remember how to do that. So I remember being 4 or 5 years old and a bunch of other kids knowing how to do it and how frustrating and embarrassing for me it was to not be able to do it yet. Little did I know is because my short-term memory was out of whack. There's a part of the brain that people with a condition have, and that part of the brain is different from majority of people. That's what makes it hard for us to kind of imagine an angle or a shape or an action done in a different direction of sorts. So it's hard for us to imagine that. We can't transpose that mirror effect, or we have to sort of visualize or kind of copy. That's why people with the inattentive type, for the most part, we suck at directions. We're horrible at navigating and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure how that was an advantage in the past, but for me, if I memorize how to do something in my long-term memory, I'll remember it for the rest of my life. When I have to memorize a song, for the most part, I'll remember it like 20 years later. But when it comes to short-term memory and imagining myself in a different position, kind of doing a different directions, maybe when I'm driving or whatnot, yeah, I'm not too good at that. For the most part, the other inattentive types I've read about and seen, they're not good at that either. Number 2, getting bad grades from low scores on exams because of not fully understanding instructions. Well, that goes without saying. Since we can't pay attention to instructions and we're not really good with details, of course we're going to get bad grades. We're going to be put in lower placement classes. We're going to be put in perhaps the extra help group for the kids who are slower or whatever it is. It's not that we're dumber than all the other kids or most kids. In fact, I would argue we're more intelligent than they are, and we've had to fight more over the years in order for us to survive. It's just that there is no stimulation there. If it doesn't pick up the reward system, we're not going to want to do it. So that's going to basically put us in the group with the kids who perhaps are either slow learners or kids who just are not adept to, I don't know, being overachievers like the model that the school wants us to be. Number 3, turning in assignments late or not at all. Yeah, I turn in a bunch of assignments late. It's not uncommon. You know why? Because you do the assignments at the last minute. You have to copy it from someone, or you just don't understand how to do it, so you have to wait until you get to class to be able to do it. That's what happens with the condition. It's just a whole lot of academic crap that you have to deal with. Number 4, constantly tired because of slow onset sleep and sleeping late. Now, I recall growing up in the 90s, and there were certain cartoons like Disney's One Saturday Morning, for those of you who recall, that was on Saturdays. Now, I couldn't watch that, or I didn't care enough to watch that, even though it was great shows like Recess, Pepper Ann, just to name a few. Now, I didn't watch those shows until they came on a network called Toon Disney years afterwards. So anyway, the reason why I never woke up early on Saturday was because I lacked sleep during the week. People with the inattentive subtype have what they call slow onset sleep. It basically takes us about 20 minutes to an hour and a half to maybe even 2 hours to fully fall asleep. Why? Because our neurotransmitters that deal with sleep are low. Serotonin, we have low serotonin. So serotonin deals with sleep. It also is the feel-good neurotransmitter in terms of interactions with people or wanting to have interactions with people. You just feel more positive. You feel much more of a connection. Majority of my life, I didn't feel any of that. I've disliked and outright hated majority of people that I've met. Only a very small percentage of people that I've met in my life have I liked. Ironically enough, those people have the condition as well. So anyway, yes, I would wake up late on weekends because I would lack sleep from overdoing my homework, not being able to finish on time, and taking forever to go to sleep because I just couldn't knock out. And God forbid it was at a friend's house or a family member's house. If it wasn't my own bed, I couldn't go to sleep. My body couldn't get the lack of GABA and serotonin my body had. No, it was not enough. I see other people falling asleep anywhere, at a theater, and a couch. I could never do that. My body would constantly be letting me know, hey, you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. A twitch there, an itch there, whatever it was. It's just imagine for you neurotypicals never finding your comfy spot. So anyway, sleeping late on weekends to catch up on the lack of sleep you had during the week, fairly common. Slow onset sleep. Only the inattentive types, from what I've researched, have that. Number 5, waking up late on weekends to catch up on missed sleep from weekdays. That's exactly what I just spoke about. So, yeah, you miss out on a lot of activities. You miss out on a lot of things with friends and family members. Why? Because you need to get your extra sleep. If not, you're going to be bummed out the majority of the day. You're going to be upset. You're going to be cranky, whatever it is. Number 6, being made fun of because of how you do things differently than others. Well, seeing as this condition makes you do a majority of things differently because you're almost a different type of human than neurotypical. And you're living in a world in school, especially out in the business world, whatever the hell. You're living in a world of neurotypicals if you have this condition. And you're going to do things, a lot of things I should say, differently than neurotypicals. So what's going to happen? You know what normal is? High frequency of occurrence is what normal is. And guess what? Our actions are not high in frequency because there's only a 4% population that has this condition. So that makes things very difficult for us. So we have, what do we do? We have to do things, we have to go out of our way sometimes to do certain things that are easy for other people. And guess what? You're going to get made fun of because of that. You're going to be looked upon as weird because of that. That's just because it's not quote-unquote normal. It's not a high-frequency occurrence. Number 7, often being criticized because of how different or weird you are compared to everybody else. Yeah, I've been considered a nut, a loon, a weirdo a majority of my life. And you know what? I am far from normal, and I will never be normal. As a majority of people with the inattentive type can tell you, we're very out there. What about the hyperactive types and the combined types? Well, I would argue that the hyperactive types and combined types, they're wannabe neurotypicals. You know why? Because they want to boost up their lack of reward system, and they can do so by imitating other people and getting praise and compliments from other people, by doing activities that neurotypicals do. Now we inattentive types, for the most part, don't give a rat's you-know-what about that, because it doesn't make a difference to us, at least in most of the inattentive types I know. But for the hyperactive types, and for some combined types, I've noticed that fitting in and doing what the norm and sheep are doing is stimulating for them. It brings up their reward system. Has it done so for me? No. Never has. 8. Getting annoyed and frustrated by people and preferring to be alone more often. In elementary school, I would prefer to be alone a majority of the time. I would walk around school by myself, and sometimes I would join a group of people to play dodgeball, handball. We played this game called Kickback, where we would basically kick a ball from really far distances back and forth and get points by catching it. I've never heard of any other school playing it, but anyway. And, sometimes kickball as well. So, but majority of the time I used to want to be by myself because something used to frustrate me. Either some loudmouth or some neurotypical or some sort of thing maybe I could have been, been looked upon as weird for doing whatever it was. So, but yeah, preferring to be alone for an inattentive type is not too uncommon because sometimes we just can't take being around other people.